Hello, in this lesson we are going to talk about tax law and regulation. I'm sure you've heard about people becoming millionaires using cryptocurrencies, or more specifically using Bitcoin. They've bought them years ago, whether or not they planned on doing this, but they bought them years ago when the price was really low, less than $1, and now it's actually today it's hit to over $7,000. It's hitting its all-time highs and has been over the last few days and over the last couple of weeks or so. In general, it's crazy, and this is the 2nd of November. And so, yeah, like I was saying, a lot of people are becoming really, really rich, and people want to know what's the tax situation. And to sort of make it clear, it's still very early, so there isn't solid tax, I would say, information and exactly how the government's going to be handling this, but there are tax laws. So let's cover what isn't taxed. So what isn't taxed, not taxed is mining. So if I were to have a powerful rig, actually it doesn't really matter what rig I got. If I mine, let's say I get 10 coins, those coins aren't taxed. So mining is not taxed. Also, I'll put an asterisk here. Also, sending and receiving coins are not taxed either. So if let's say I have 100 bitcoins, I send you 10, you don't get taxed, neither do I get taxed. Very simple stuff. So far it's pretty similar to the way it is with money, or at least in the sending and receiving aspect. Buying, so if I were to buy some coins, I don't get taxed for that. If I were to exchange for another currency, so let's say if I exchange it from Bitcoin, so imagine if I go from BTC to United States dollar, that is not taxed. But what is taxed, that's pretty much everything that's not taxed. What is taxed, so this is all the stuff that's going to be taxed, is the first thing that we'll actually cover is capital gains. Capital gains, and this is generally done through difference in price. So imagine if I were to buy one Bitcoin and it was when it was $1,000, and let's say 2 months later I sell that Bitcoin and I sell it for $100,000. That's a big increase, but let's say I do $100,000. The $99,000 are taxable. If it remains in Bitcoins, then that's not taxable. But if, let's say, I sell it, then that is taxable. You can think of it like buying art or anything, really. So if I buy something, I invest in something, let's say it is literally a painting, and I spend £100 on it. Doesn't matter the value of the painting, I won't get taxed on that. But what I will get taxed on if I choose to sell that painting. So let's say if I sell it for £1,000,000, that's a big increase. I'll get taxed on the million minus the initial cost price. And so that actually links in with exchanging it, because though exchanging it from cryptocurrency to, let's say, a fiat-based currency isn't taxed, the difference is taxed. But also, it's the actual overall capital gain. So if, let's say, we are doing this a bunch of times throughout the year, maybe we do 3 transactions. So let me just do this. We do 3 transactions. So we buy Bitcoin and at, let's say, $1,000. We sell it at $2,000. So we have made a profit of $1,000. And let's say so this is transaction number 1. Transaction number 2, let's say if we buy it when it went down a bit, and it is now 1500, and it goes up to 4000. That is a $2,500 profit. So far we got $3,500 profit. But maybe just before the end of our tax year, we buy it at, let's say, $1,200, and we are actually, no, let me choose another figure. So let's say it's really high, it's at $50,000, but we're still confident that it's going to increase. But unfortunately, it doesn't, and we sell it at, let's just say, $1,000. So we've actually made a loss of $49,000 on this transaction. So if we were to add all that up, it is 1,000 plus 2,500 minus 49,000. So 1,000 plus 2,500 is 3,500. If we take that away from 49,000, that is 45,500. So we have made a loss of 45,500. So that is a loss right there. So we wouldn't actually pay any capital gains. We can use that as a deduction. So that's something to bear in mind. So it's not of each individual exchange. If there are any profits or losses, it's the overall at the end of the tax year. So that difference in price. So let me just put that there, difference in price. So again, that's something worth noting. So is there anything else that can actually be taxed? And yes, selling goods using coin. So if I'm a merchant, let's say on Amazon, I start taking Bitcoin transactions. If I sell stuff using Bitcoins, that can be taxed. So though, let's say if we just two users sending and receiving coin, but if we're actually selling goods, then the actual seller has to pay tax on there as well. And the other thing is corporation tax. So this links in with the selling goods aspect. So the corporation tax, and this is actually just treated, it's treated like foreign currency in its tax laws. So that's everything that could be taxed and can't be taxed. But at the end of the day, we're very early in cryptocurrencies. Whether it's Bitcoin or Ethereum or Ripple, Dash, Monero, whatever, we are still in the early days. So things will change. The government or people in government, policymakers will actually educate themselves on what cryptocurrencies really are. They'll actually take notice, and when that really does happen, which is already sort of happening, then I guarantee there'll be more tax laws and there'll be tighter tax laws put into place. So this is just as it is now. The last thing I'm going to cover is what potentially could be taxed. And okay, so this is going to be an interesting one. The coin's current value with exchange. And what I mean by that is, imagine if I were to buy Bitcoin at $1,000, and at the end of the financial year, it is worth $100,000. Imagine if I haven't exchanged it, but the US, not US, I mean the government might put out a tax law that says, regardless of whether or not it has been exchanged from cryptocurrency to fiat-based currency, the actual difference will still be taxed, and you'll have to either exchange it to pay it in its current form, aka fiat currency, or you would have to pay it using fiat currency in other means. So if you had enough money to pay it, then you would have to pay the tax. If not, you'd have to actually liquidate it and then pay the tax. So they might impose it regardless of what form it's in. So it no longer becomes like an asset, like a painting. It actually is just, they're saying it's a currency and you need to do that. So this is for the individual. And what they might also do is just tax the coin itself. So at the moment, government isn't taking cryptocurrency in any form, but they might say, okay, if you've got cryptocurrencies and if the activity that you've gained those cryptocurrencies or the increase in cryptocurrencies, if it would be taxed usually, then we'll tax it in the same way. So that they'll just say, if our tax law is 10% and you've got 10 coins, we'll just take one of your coins. So they might do something like that. And what's really scary and exciting in a way is that because it's all on a public ledger, if something like that were to happen with government involvement, they could theoretically, assuming the network allows them to do it, and is essentially baked into it, this will probably be a hard fork in itself, depending on the currency. They could tax you automatically, so they will know exactly how much you've got, not to some degree of accuracy, but literally down to the last Satoshi, which is like a 0.000000001 of a Bitcoin. Obviously, that's a Bitcoin, but with any sort of currency. So they could be taxing automatically. So that's quite a scary thought for some people, a good thought for others. So automatic taxing. So this has just been an overview of the tax law and regulations, essentially just around the world. Different countries will have different laws and regulations. So if you're interested in cryptocurrency, which I'm sure you are if you're watching this video, feel free to check out, Google the different laws in the UK, US, China, because they will differ, especially if you're operating within those countries and you plan on using cryptocurrencies. Definitely check the laws within that country. So that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and I look forward to seeing you in my next awesome crypto lesson.